That's fine. It's fine. I'm not salty. It's fine. I got comments, I got emails, I got people coming up to me and asking me more about Sciences Po, enigmatic, all-knowing institution. Hello. How's it going? I'm a pilgrim today, I guess. No. Okay, so a couple months back, I did a video about my experiences at Sciences Po, and you guys had a lot of questions about that. Apparently, Sciences Po is a very mysterious organization that doesn't give a lot of information to the people who are most interested in it. So I decided to answer a few more of your questions, give you a little part 2, just kind of review some of the ones that came up the most. A majority of the comments under my YouTube video was about registration and the acceptance process and all that, and unfortunately I am not equipped to answer that. My school has a special deal with Sciences Po. It's more like an exchange, so the amount of number that Sciences Po sends to my institution, we send over to Sciences Po. There's only a finite number of spots. And those students, both ways, they don't have those interviews, they don't have really all of that preparation that goes into it. Sure, there's the visa process, sure you have to find your own accommodations, things of that nature, but in terms of getting approved or rejected, if you meet the top 3 requirements, which I believe are 3.8 GPA or above, you speak at least a B1 in French, and you have, I believe, at least 3 recommendations from a range of people, being professors, French professors, and, you know, like bosses, managers, things of that nature. So if you have those and your school is affiliated with Sciences Po, you have a good chance. I mean, I didn't have any sort of interviews, I didn't meet with any teams, or I didn't have any entrance exams. I was just flying through there, you know? So unfortunately, I can't speak to those who aren't affiliated automatically with Sciences Po. I fear. I have a lot of fear and anxiety for you. I am thinking and praying about you. You're in my thoughts and prayers, you folks. But I will say, if you are outside France, even outside the EU, I think you stand a much better chance of getting in. I know for French people, it's equivalent to it's like the Harvard of France, right? But if you're an international student, you have that edge. Apparently, the requirements are a lot softer. The acceptance rates are a lot higher because it is an international school. They want as many international kids as possible, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of hope if your school isn't already connected. So I'm sorry I can't be of more help to you there. I wish I was. Following that same line, I had some questions about my personal statement or my missional statement and Okay. I needed to write 2 essays, and these essays were only allowed to be 1 full page length. And the thing is, as a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old, you probably don't have your life's mission all set up, unless you do, in which case, you lucky bastard. They really want to know what it is about France, about Sciences Po in particular, that will help you in your life's mission. So while I can't really show you my own, I don't even know if I still have access to it. I can't really tell you what to do. I will say they want to be patted on the back and told that they're special, essentially. So don't be cheesy, but come up with some reason as to why specifically Sciences Po in France is absolutely crucial to the growth of your career, of your education, etc., etc. Do not put anything down. So I am a very outspoken American woman. I am very capable of seeing the benefits and also the faults of my country, and I'm happy to have a conversation about that. But what you don't want to do is put down other things in lieu of rising other things up on a pedestal, because that just makes you look a little vindictive and mean. While they want you to think highly of them, they also want you to think highly of literally everything else. So comparing is kind of tricky in those, little essays there, but it's doable. You can do it. I have so much faith in you. If you're not affiliated with Sciences Po already, I would go so far as to say that, these essays are important, but they're not what give you your edge. So yeah, you want to have a well-written, well thought out statement, but if you're also required to do the interviews, to meet with the committee, I think that's part of it. That's where you really want to shine. That's where you really want to have it together. Have stats off the top of your head, have your mission off the top of your head, be delightful. Now, I got a few questions regarding language. So if you have a hard time understanding even the application in either English or French, that is unfortunately pretty indicative of, your at least initial understanding of how classes are gonna go. This is a top-ranked school in the entire world. Unfortunately, if that is not quite at your level, you are gonna have a tougher time in your classes dealing with the administration, meeting kids, attending events. If you really do struggle with that, I would take a good hard look as to your goals and why it is you want to study at Sciences Po specifically, because again, it's really hard. I mean, I'm fluent in English. I'm near fluent in French. I had a really hard time, I'm not gonna lie to you. And of course, none of that is meant, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just trying to give you the honest facts and not raise your expectations if that is something that that you could improve on. So one thing I stressed in my last video, and I'll stress it again, you have to be a self-starter at this place. No one is gonna advocate for you if you don't advocate for yourself. It is entirely opposite to the American way of doing things, in which you are babied and your little hand is held throughout any sort of administrative process. It ain't like that. So I received a beautiful long email with some questions. Thank you, Soojin. I hope you're doing well, and I hope these answer your questions. I really appreciate you, and I hope you get in. Regarding more of the social circle around Sciences Po. So again, I can only speak to the Paris campus. That's where I was. I did not travel to any of the other campuses. I did not spend time there. I did not know people who went there. Soojin asked me if I had ever gone to a career fair at Sciences Po, and to answer your question, I did not. I think there were scheduling conflicts most times. Otherwise, it was simply not within my career field. I will say Sciences Po is very international relations focused. This is future diplomats, future EU, global tech relations. I don't know. I am not among that group. I got a degree in psychology. I always looked my way into the singular psychology class that they offered that semester. Needless to say, a lot of the career fairs didn't really have what I was interested in. Instead, a lot of my friends were doing internships and doing research projects outside of Sciences Po, where I could really get some contacts, make some friends, etc., etc. The career fairs appeared to me to be very much advertised, accessible. I do believe a majority of it was in French. If you go to them, I do recommend having a CV or resume for you Americans, which is fully in French, and have that checked and double checked by a French person or a French expert. So along those same lines, there are tons of activities that Sciences Po has. I have touched on it a little bit in my last video, but they have conferences, they have activists, they have speaker series, and that is fully independent of all of the cultural events that they have going on. We got to watch movies for €3 at the itty-bitty little theater that was down the street, Rue Christine, if you know it. And it was adorable, and I had so much fun. And they had speakers of directors come in. We had Vladimir Zelensky come in and talk. Okay, I don't think he came in. I don't think he was capable of coming in, because I was there when the whole conflict started. I think he kind of they FaceTimed, But can you imagine FaceTiming the president of Ukraine? Insane. Another question I got was specific to the city of Paris. How easy is it to get around Paris? Getting around with a Metro Pass is extremely easy. Like, looking at a map, it looks a little chaotic, I'm not gonna lie to you. But you can like get pretty much anywhere within the city in 40 minutes or so, just on the Metro alone. And I like that they have night buses. I don't like that these metros close relatively early. Like if you want to go to the clubs, go to the bars, have a party, you better do that close to your place, because I think most of the metros close at like 12:30 a.m. and they don't open again until 5:30, and that can be tough. That's not always the vibe. As a student, you have access to an insane discount for the Metro. If you can afford it, get it. It is half off, I think, if you buy the year pass as a student. If you're planning on being there the full year, it is absolutely worth it. If you plan on being there just the semester, it's probably also absolutely worth it. I did not buy it. I spent a whole lot more money on transportation, and then I kind of finagled my way into a friend's pass. But the problem with that is that they have your little picture on the back of it. And sometimes you run into somebody who's dressed exactly like you, and they flash you a badge and they ask you to show them your pass. And if you don't look like that picture, which I didn't, you get fined like 80 euros. It's way more expensive to not buy a pass, to not get a deal, especially with those student discounts. Do some research. There are full pages on the internet, full YouTube videos on the internet dedicated to explaining to you all the possible discounts that you have. Okay, this is totally independent of that, but look into the Erasmus page. Especially for you Americans, we don't really have that over here. This is like an organization in which students, like, they organize parties for students from all around the world that are located in one place. And this, you know, it's not specific to Paris. You can find it in Spain. You can find it in literally anywhere else in the EU. But they also take trips. So I know that you could take like a 90 euro day trip to Mont Saint-Michel, or like a weekend trip to Normandy, or like they go everywhere, honestly. And it's really interesting, and I always wanted to go, but I never got a chance to, unfortunately. That's fine. It's fine. I'm not salty. It's fine. So a lot of the other questions I got were the like class structure and teaching methods of France and French schools. And again, I have to put this little disclaimer. I took like 5 or 6 different classes. I am only aware of those 5 or 6 different teaching methods. I have had lots of conversations with French students, with international students. So in the United States, you know, you can expect in college to have several hours worth of homework every week to complete outside of class for one class. My experience has been in the US. You complete that homework outside of school, you come back, maybe you grade it or you hand it in to be graded, and then you sit down and you learn, or maybe it's like a debate depending on what kind of classes you take. I know a lot of my language classes, the grammar homework would be done outside, and you would be asked to watch, you know, grammar videos, things of that nature, where when you came to class, that was your time to speak. That was your time to really engage in the conversation, the output of that language. So that was my experience in America, but in France, and again, specific to my own experiences, outside of the language classroom, for the most part, there wasn't a lot of conversation involved. When I knew that there wasn't a debate assigned for that day in the syllabus, I could probably expect to come in, sit myself down, nod at the teacher for 2 hours, and then just you know, peace out. And that can be really tricky for a lot of people, myself included. My focus is not incredible, and when somebody isn't physically engaging me in conversation, my mind tends to wander. Even if it's interesting stuff, even if I have something to say about it, because I feel like I'm not actually part of that classroom. And some teachers obviously did this better than others. And you know, like, I say that it's not a conversation in classes, but God, I don't even really know how to describe this. It's kind of a role reversal. For my psychology class, they assigned a lot of readings. You were probably reading like 50 pages a week, which, you know, maybe isn't a lot for most people. That's less than 10 pages a day. But when you're reading them in not your native language about a topic that has a lot of vocabulary that you don't use in everyday speech, sometimes that can take a hot second. And you are expected to come to class with questions, you are expected to come to class with points of talking, even though it's not a debate and it's not a conversation in class, there is room for understanding. You know, it's an interesting thing because I was always told that the French were taught extreme critical thinking skills, and I've spent a lot of time with French people, and it's easy to see like the American politeness goes totally out the window if they disagree with you. And I'm not saying that they're rude, I'm just saying if you say something they don't agree with, they will speak up and they will continue to speak up until they feel they've gotten their point across. And that is something that is hammered into them in schools. So you are maybe not expected to fill out assignments regarding the course material, but you're expected to form your own opinions. And to Americans, that's like unheard of. That's really hard because that's not what we're told to do. We're told to like go along, agree with the teacher, and then regurgitate that onto a test or an essay or whatever it is we're being tested on. It's just a learning curve, especially for us Americans. And that kind of leads you into an awkward question, which is how the hell do they grade you on anything if there aren't assignments, just opinions? That's a good question. If they think you are a stand-up guy, you'll get an A. No. But if they notice that you're paying attention, if they notice that you are active in class, there is no possible way for you to fail. Unless you just totally misunderstand the assignments or you just like backtalk the teacher. I don't really know. I feel like it's really hard to fail in this system. It is also very difficult to get outside help from that specific teacher. In my opinion, I felt for a majority of my teachers, it wasn't like a passion project for them. This was their job. And it's very different from the US when we are expected to work so much. We are expected to find things that we enjoy about the workplace, about the work culture, about just the work in general. And I feel like that adds to it when a teacher really loves his or her subject and that comes through in their teaching. I had a hard time feeling that from these French professors. I'm somebody who likes to reflect the emotions of a conversation, so if you seem uninterested in a conversation, I'm gonna shoot that right back at you. No, but I will say generally there is some sort of midterm, whether that's a project, a presentation, an essay, an exam, a simple chat with the teacher, and most of the time there's far more likely to be a final or some sort of final project or something. And those are majority of your grades. And sometimes they'll like sprinkle in a few little projects, a few little papers throughout. But for the most part, you're graded on class participation, which as an international student is the hardest thing. I don't know about you, but especially for the first month or so I was there, I was petrified to speak up. Like, what if I made an egregious French grammar mistake? And this is the fear of every language student, but what if I can't get my point across like I want to, and then I just look stupid? The thing about all those fears is that you're gonna look stupid, and you are in a class with a bunch of French college students. But the thing is, they signed up for this. They know you're an international student. You don't have to pretend to be French. You don't have to pretend that it's your first language. They all know that you are working twice as hard as they are. They don't all know that. I hope they know that. They better know that. You are working twice as hard as any French person in that classroom, because not only do you have to make yourself understood, but you have to do it in a language that you are not as familiar with as they are. That's really hard. That's not an easy feat. And like I said in my last video, your teachers are so understanding of that. My classmates were so understanding of that. Sujin asked me if I felt that method of teaching was effective, and it's really hard for me to answer that question because I grew up in a very different class structure. So naturally, it's gonna come as a little bit alien to me. I would say for my learning, having come out of a pandemic, Zoom University was certainly not any better. So I would say, for all intents and purposes, even though it was a little less warm, I didn't get to know the teachers as well. There was no sort of personal relationship, no sort of like come to my office hours. Despite all that, I thought that it was, for the most part, it was really helpful because I liked the fact that you can take your time outside of class to just come to the understanding. And then once you get to class, you can ask questions about it. You're encouraged to explore the misunderstanding. They actually don't really want you to understand everything outside of the classroom, which sounds weird. It's kind of opposite to the American system because I feel like whenever I asked a question in class in America, I felt like I was a burden to the class almost because, you know, if I knew it was going to be a long-winded explanation, so half the time the teacher would just be like, meet me after class, I'll explain it to you then. And I don't know, that didn't always help me. So I'd have to think about that a little more, but I think it takes some getting used to. But once you get used to it, once you've introduced yourself to your teachers and you say, hey, like, French isn't my first language, I'm from here. Once you do that, I think it's a fantastic experience. And like I said, a lot of my teachers were very, very, very kind. There was only one that really just did not care. Actually, maybe two. But either way, like, you make friends, people help you out. Don't be quiet about it. Like, there, again, like I said in my last video, there are whole offices dedicated to your success as an international student at Sciences Po. They are working for you. You just have to make yourself known. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, this was just a quick little follow-up, I guess, to my last video. I'm going to put my email in the box below. If you have any other questions, please reach out. I don't check that email as often as I should, but give me a reason to. I'm happy to make another video about this if I have left any sort of stone unturned. I don't know, come up with something. Ask me questions, I'm here for you. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day and that you have a really, really good dinner tonight. I'll see you next time. Love you, bye.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.